What's up YouTube, Capital G here, checking out a brand new Timelord monster that just got revealed. This is coming out in the OCG Collector's Pack 18, and although I do not consider myself to be a Timelord fan in pretty much any capacity, this is one that definitely caught my eye because it is a particularly dangerous card, and I think that it has a very explosive cheese effect that it can probably seal some games. And I don't consider myself to be like a Timelord hater or anything like that. It's just, I don't know, I never really felt like the deck was all that interesting. I think a lot of the fanfare from Timelords really comes from like the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's anime, the fact that it was played on there, so a lot of people revere the anime, so they like a lot of the archetypes that was played or that were played in the show. So let's go ahead and break down Sandaion, the Timelord. It's a level 10, so usually Timelords are like high levels, except it's Time Maiden the level 1. I could be wrong about that, but I think Time Maiden might be the level 1. Level 10, Light Fairy, 4,000 attack, 4,000 defense. Good lord, this is a world beater. This thing basically has the stat lines of like a god card. It cannot be special summoned from the deck, so you can forget about that. It has 5 effects, but most of them are just like a single line of text. They're very short. The first effect says you can only control one face-up Sandaion the Timelord, no big deal. Effect number 2, if only your opponent controls a monster, you can normal summon this card without tributing. That also was to be expected because a lot of the Timelords have high levels, but they have inherent ways of getting themselves on the field extremely easily. Effect number 3, cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Also, neither player takes battle damage from battles involving this card. That was also to be expected. Timelords usually have like, sometimes they have these really great stat lines, but you can't actually do any battle damage with the cards, but that does mean you can kind of like run over anything. I mean, this card's 4,000 attack. Even if you're not doing damage, it is pretty nice to be able to run over things like Borreload and towers and whatnot. Effect number 4, and this is the cheese effect where I'm just like, whoa. At the end of the battle phase, if this card battles, or excuse me, if this card battled, inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent. That is a fucking ton of damage. I'm gonna read the 5th effect, then I'll come back to that. Once per turn, and this is built into like all the Timelords for the most part, once per turn during your standby phase, shuffle this card back into the deck. It'd be too OP if you got to keep the Timelords like forever. That would just be broken. It has to have some type of downside, and that is the biggest downside of the Timelords. They go back into your deck after you've basically had them on the field for a turn. Now let's go back to that 4th effect, that 2,000 burn effect, which is legitimate. By the way, if your opponent does Solemn Strike this card, it's not gonna be destroyed. That is probably the easiest way to try and counter this card, I would assume, outside of Battle Traps, which nobody plays. I'm looking at that, man, and I'm looking at a deck like Chain Burn, and I'm just thinking, good lord Konami, do you understand what you have done? You have given Chain Burn possibly a way of summoning a card incredibly easy that all it has to do is attack and you do 2,000 damage. One of the Achilles heels of Chain Burn right now is the fact that you don't really get any burn damage out of your monsters. The monsters that Chain Burn have even run historically, a lot of the cards like Card D and Backjack, like they kind of just get you to other cards. They get you to your spells and traps, and then your spells and traps are the cards that do the big amounts of burn damage. Chain Strike, Just Desert, Secret Barrel, Secret Blast, Ceasefire, etc., etc. You don't really get any burn damage out of your monsters. Your monsters are just kind of used to either get you other cards, or they're Swift Scarecrow, Battle Fader. Like, they're these kind of defensive cards that don't really serve any offensive purpose. This is a card that you can summon extremely easily, catch your opponent off guard, and hit them for 2,000 damage in a single swing. That is incredible. I feel like this is actually a significant buff for a deck like Chain Burn. You guys know that Chain Burn doesn't really play, like, it doesn't play the same game of Yu-Gi-Oh! As you do. It's almost like if you're racing in, I don't know, some type of Grand Prix, Chain Burn would be like the player who's driving backwards in reverse and trying to wreck all the other cards and being like, well, if I wreck everybody, then technically I'm the last card standing and I win. I don't have to do all the laps. I just have to wreck you guys. That's what Chain Burn wants to do, and this is a way of getting 2,000 damage, which is a lot in Chain Burn. That is 25% of your opponent's life points under normal circumstances. That is a lot of damage. So if you can get 2k out of one attack, all they have to do is flip over a couple of Secret Barrels, maybe an Ojama Trio, and man, they might be very close to getting you down to where you're like, okay, I can't attack, otherwise I attack into a dimension wall or a magic cylinder and I end up losing the duel. I think this card is it's pretty cool, and it also gives Time Lords a way of being able to do like a lot of damage. This card could also be pretty cool with skill drain. There's some shenanigans there, but I think most of those you could probably do with like the Malefic monsters already. Very interesting card. I actually think it's going to work better in Chainburn than its own archetype, sadly. Anyways, whatever you guys think, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already. Turn on that notification bell for daily videos.